Okay, let's see. You're Victor. Cool. Okay, so before we get started here, I guess what's just so you know, I kind of my coaching kind of specialty, I guess if you will, is kind of big picture stuff. So I'll definitely look at mechanics and kind of and ways to use Victor. I play Victor a fair amount myself, so that'll make that kind of a little easier. Um, and but I tend to focus a little bit more just on kind of strategy and decision making, both kind of in lane and then in the big picture as the game goes on. So if anything I say doesn't make sense, or you disagree, or you just want to ask a question or anything, feel free to interrupt me and ask away at any time. So don't hesitate to interrupt me, because I'll just keep talking if you don't. So
Okay.
let me look you up here.
I've just been trying to learn Victor
Yeah, cool.
lately, so I can have some mid lane.
Perfect. Okay, so you are gold 4, and do you main? It looks like maybe you main ADC mostly.
Yeah, I did for a while.
Okay.
Mainly
I'm just looking
Vayne.
at your OPGG profile here. So Vayne. Okay, cool. So what would you say like your strengths are as far as the game goes?
I recently started warding a lot more because
Okay.
I started upgrading my trinkets.
That's good.
I don't think I did this game.
Okay, that's good.
Um, CSing is okay. It's not great. It's not bad.
Okay. Okay, good. And then, so I guess, so then what would you say, are you aware of anything in particular that you know you need help on or work on?
Roaming map awareness,
Okay.
and warding locations and timing.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll definitely pay attention to that then. So yeah, just to reiterate as I go, if you have questions or something that I'm not addressing that you want me to make sure to talk about, just stop me and let me know, and we'll jump into it here. Okay, so let's see. You are against Morgana. You have a Vlad top lane, Lee jungle, and they are rocking Shen jungle. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna speed up a little here till minions get to lane. Oh, yeah, that's fine actually. I was thinking it was a few seconds later. Yeah, that's fine to go back now. Okay, so Shen's starting red, which is something that he's able to do because he's not mana dependent and he's not super cooldown dependent either. And so probably 80% of the time, if you don't know where the enemy jungler is, you can assume that they're starting blue. But Shen's one of the ones that could kind of go either way. So it's helpful if you can get any sense of where he's starting, so that you have a better idea of where you want to ward. Because if he starts red, then he'll probably gank from blue side.
I thought he would start Gromp, so I placed a ward. I think it's later, but I
Yeah.
placed a ward on bot side.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not a bad assumption. If you don't have vision of the jungler before, then you kind of got to pick, guess a side. So Gromp is definitely, if you have to guess, then guessing Gromp is usually the best guess, because that's more typical. Okay, so far so good. You only missed 1 CS out of the first 2 waves, so that's pretty good. So probably in the next sometime between about 3:15 and 3:30 is when you want to throw down that first ward. Nice, you're trading pretty well with her.
Yeah,
You ignited a little early there, but
yeah,
but that's
I was
okay.
sad about that.
Yeah, that's okay. If you'd gotten your empowered auto off, I think that would have been a kill with ignite. But she managed to land the binding.
I die a lot this game to roams and unexpected Morgana damage.
Yeah.
Darius roamed a lot. He's like, I don't want to go against blood, so I'm gonna roam mid.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so right by now is when you want to have your ward thrown down. Because at about 3:30 is when jungler, yeah, so you can see here when the junglers are finishing their second buff. Although Lee is really late for some reason.
Oh, he did wolves and then raids. Oh, wait, I don't think he did raids.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. Oh, nice. Okay, good, pretty good follow. Well, yeah, you kind of overcommitted a little bit, I guess. Okay, so you had to burn your flash. So, okay, yeah, you still have your ward. So since all that action went down up here, and you don't really know where everybody went, that's a moment where you can throw, even if you can only throw your ward down like right here, you know? Because when Shen was messing around up here, and you know that, you know, even if he kind of hangs back out here, he knows that you're low, he knows you just blew your flash, and so he's going to be looking for an opportunity to try to sneak in on you here. So even just throwing your ward down in this, you know, in this lane, you're not going to be pushing much past this probably anytime soon. And so throwing it here will just give you a lot more safety to maybe give Morgana some pressure. Okay, now you see him up at red though. That's fine though. Roaming there is kind of risky since you don't have very much mana. Good.
I get her down so low here, and it makes me sad because I used my ignite earlier.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of thing where you can kind of see this coming a little bit, and so you can kind of position yourself to take better advantage. Because even one auto attack would have killed her there, and so like you can see how low she is, and so if she even as soon as she even starts coming up this direction, you want to be starting. You know, you want to be having yourself in a position where. She can't do anything to you. Even if she lands a binding on you, it'll do a little bit of damage, but you know she can't kill you right now. And so, you know, worst case scenario, you don't kill her. And so you can position yourself a little bit, even if you just stand kind of right, you know, behind this minion to protect yourself from the binding, or just so you're not heading this way. Basically, is the point. So you're positioning yourself so that you are able to take advantage if she over positions. So she's coming at you, and now she's in laser range. But you're going to hit her with her laser right now, but if you try to walk up and hit her with an auto attack, you're going to get creep blocked, because you're totally behind this line of scrimmage here. And so if you were able to position maybe over here, you know, a little bit outside that wave, then you're able to take one step forward, hit her with an auto attack, and then your laser. And so, yeah, so right there, you hit her with your laser, and then you kind of either just immediately fell back, or you weren't auto-attacking or you weren't clicking to continue to move forward. So as you're doing that, again, worst case scenario, she just misses, she doesn't, you know, she binds you and you can't follow, so oh well, you just keep CSing. But if you continue to, it's just a little thing, but if you continue to kind of micro forward, so as you are clicking and dragging your laser, so you know, you're queuing up your laser to go that path, and then as soon as you release your mouse, you know, to fire the laser, then just immediately start clicking, you know, direct inputting here and here and here and here as you go, so that Viktor is walking forward as he's firing the laser, and then that'll hit, you know, the laser will hit her, and then you're walking forward, so you're putting yourself in position to auto attack Morgana, because your laser doesn't have. I think maybe you stop for a split second to cast it, but you can cast it while moving. It'll continue to cast while moving. So I don't even remember for sure if it stops you at all while you're casting it. I'd have to go test that. But if it does stop you, if it does have a cast time, it's like a quarter of a second or something, and so you can keep moving while the laser is going. So it's just a really little thing, but I think you could have picked up a kill there if you kind of positioned yourself a little bit better. At this point, you want to be looking to recall, which I mean I'm sure is on your mind too, because you're low on mana and you have 1,000 gold to be upgrade. You know, so you want to upgrade your hex score. So, as a rule of thumb, you do want to shove the lane before you recall.
Yeah, that's what I think I try and do.
Yeah, and so, but in this case, like, given the amount of time you have and looking at the position of the wave, you don't have enough mana to, to spam lasers or whatever to shove the wave really fast. And so by the time you finish off these guys, this wave will have made it up to, about here. And then you'll have to clear that one. And so by the time you actually clear it, Morgana will be back in lane. Or really close to back in lane. She won't actually lose any CS. Or if she loses it, it'll be like 1 or 2 at most. And so because of how things ended up and because you're low on mana, in this particular set of circumstances, it would actually probably be better to just leave these guys alive. Because then these guys just sit here and fight with them, and then this wave comes up and it stops and fights with them, and then this wave, comes up, and so the lane kind of freezes temporarily about this area, and it's still going to slow push her way. But you'll be able to come back to lane and the wave will still be here, and you'll still be able to kit most of those CS. And you won't be, you won't be getting to lane so far behind Morgana again. So shoving, yeah, as a rule of thumb is the thing to do. But in this situation, it's going to take you so long to actually shove it to her turret that it's going to be better for you to just recall and buy your items and then walk back and come back and just kind of let it. It'll almost be like just letting the lane reset. So it's just going to take too much time for you to do it in this particular scenario, I think. Okay, so you did actually get it to here, but now, yeah, see, this is what can happen though, because since you don't take the time to clear this wave, now it's going to freeze right outside her turret. And if she's smart, she'll be able to
shove it.
Well, she'll either be able to shove it or she'll just be able to let it sit right here and farm it, and that makes it harder for you to harass her. So let's see what ends up happening here.
I don't know what to buy first on Viktor. I always just go Luden's Echo because it's like poke and damage.
You always want to upgrade your hex score first.
Like all the way?
At least the first 2. Like you can get, usually what people do is you'll upgrade your hex core to the first level and to upgrade your laser, because that gives you, that makes your laser significantly stronger, and then makes your wave clear a lot stronger, which is especially nice versus someone like Morgana, who has such powerful wave shove. And then upgrading your Q next for the movement speed buff, which is nice for kiting and trading and such. And so depending on the matchup, but usually people will go the first 2 first and then build like Morellonomicon. That's usually a pretty good first item for Viktor, because it gives you mana regen and cooldown reduction and a nice bump of AP, and it has a nice build path. You get some, you can build, you can buy the whatchamacallit, I can't remember the name of the
Fiendish Codex?
Yeah, the Fiendish Codex and the mana regen.
Forbidden Idol.
Yeah, those 2. I know League of Legends. The Hex or the Fiendish Codex and the Forbidden Idol, yeah, to get, so those give you nice little perks along the way. So it's a nice, and that's a nice first item with a smooth build path. But yeah, your hex score gives you a significant amount of AP as you level it up, and the upgrades on your abilities are actually pretty nice. And so, plus they both give you a lot of mana, and so that can help with your mana problems as well. But that's almost always what you want to do first. Sometimes if the lane isn't going super well and you need a little more mana regen and cooldown reduction sooner, then you can upgrade the first one and then just go right into Morellonomicon, and then upgrade the second one after that. But usually you upgrade it twice, then build Morellonomicon, and then either build, yeah, Luden's Echo or like Zanya's if it's an AD matchup, or something like that, and then get the third one, and then go like Death Cap or something. But yeah, your hex score is, I think it actually gives you more AP than any item in the game.
Yeah, I think it gives like 160 at max.
Yeah, it's
at level 18.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy strong. Okay, so right now you're actually doing super well. So if you look at how this is going, so this is partially due to you playing the lane pretty well and CSing pretty well, and partially due to Morgana like doing very poorly at both of those things, because you're not really like destroying her in trades. You're doing better than her, but it's not like, it's not just a stomp. And so anyway, so this is, it's not just because you're playing well, it's also because she's playing poorly. But anyway, regardless of exactly why, you've got 43 CS to her 19, which is obscene for somebody like Morgana, who is
Just like W is the wave.
yeah, for real. And so, anyway, so all you have to do to, like, to just absolutely destroy this lane is just keep doing exactly what you're doing. You don't need to like force a trade and try to get a kill. You don't need to, to go super aggressive on her. She's losing it all by herself without you even doing too much to her. You keep poking her and keep harassing her, but you've already got, let's see, you've already got, yeah, almost 2 kills worth of gold on her already, just by this CS lead, and so without even having to kill her. And there's a couple of times where you could have, and obviously if she hands one to you, then take it. But there's no need to take a risk. If you have to overcommit to something, then there's a chance, yeah, you'll get roamed on, or the jungle will gank you, and then then potentially she's back in the game if she gets a kill or two. And so there's no need to, you have the advantage, and so there's no need to like risk it. You can kind of just keep playing the game that you're playing right now, playing safe, playing smart, focusing on CS. If it keeps going at this rate, you're going to be up 30 and then 40 and maybe even more by the time lane phase ends. And if you're up 50 CS by the time lane phase ends, that's almost the same as like being up 3 or 4 kills. And that's exactly where you want to be as a mid laner, is up that much gold. So yeah. You're zoning her and harassing her. You kind of gave up CS for that, so you want to be a little careful about that. Giving up 1 or 2 here and there is okay, but they start to add up pretty quick if it's consistent. There's another one. So that's the kind of thing. You never want to give up CS for trades. So you kind of want to keep an eye on the enemy minions and try to space your trades in between CS. So like that, yeah, you last hit and then you move into trade. You watch for last hits and you move into trade. If you got CS coming up, then you don't want to try to trade there.
After like first back, I don't CS as well, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm kind of noticing that a little bit too, and I think it's because you're kind of tunneling on trading with her and shoving the lane. And so that's the kind of thing where it's like, you kind of want to just you kind of want to be careful about getting into the mindset that you have to start getting kills. Like, especially in the mid lane, and depending on what champions you're playing, if you haven't gotten a kill yet, people, you can kind of start getting a little antsy and trying to feel like, it's okay, it's time for me to get a kill now. I need to force my advantage or whatever. And but like I kind of pointed out here, you can kind of just take a step back and look at the CS score and see that you're already crushing her. And so you can kind of just take a deep breath and kind of release that need to kill, your bloodlust, and keep focusing on the things that are winning you the lane already. And so it seems like, yeah, maybe you're focusing a little bit on trading with her and trying to poke her down. And yeah, those are good things. You want to be doing that. But you don't want to prioritize that over last hitting. And so make sure that your CS is still your first priority at this point, since that's what's winning you this lane. This ward is okay. You already have a ward here, though. So I probably would have put it over here. I know you're trying to give vision of this entry path, and that makes sense. But unless you have a specific reason to be double warding this side, I guess I would lean towards getting vision on the other side as well.
To his Wraith camp, and we might have one on Lee Sin. I'm not sure though. Like where Lee Sin is.
Yeah.
By the red bush.
Okay. So, well, yeah. I'm just talking about well, that's true. I guess you do have good vision on both sides. So. Yeah, so I don't know, I mean, maybe even just hang on to this for now then, but yeah, I mean, you probably will see him here in just a second. But anyway, as far as ward positioning goes in general, take another couple of steps, and if you're going to place this ward, place it here, right, in that spot, because if you place it here, that gives you vision of, this, which is what you want, and then but it also gives you vision of this, and so you're able to see a big chunk of the. It actually gives you more vision than that. It's like out to here, and so you're actually able to gives you vision of almost the entire path up to the river brush and of the warding entrance. So placing it here, you get like a little bit of vision out to here, but not all of this. And so since you have this ward here, it's not that big of a deal since you have the vision covered anyway. But just as a general principle, move this ward over to the entry so that you maximize the amount of vision it gives you. And then same thing on this side right here. If you need to just throw a ward down real quick, or if you're afraid to walk that far into the jungle for whatever reason because you're afraid that somebody might be sitting there waiting for you, then you can just walk up here and throw it in the brush or whatever, like you did with this one. And kind of same thing, you can throw it over the wall here. But if you can, to put it on those entrances, that gets you a lot more bang for your buck with those wards. Okay, so yep.
If I ulted there, if I had enough mana for it.
Yeah, and see that's and that's kind of that's kind of where your I think Ignite actually probably would have killed her. I'm not sure if she was in range of it though. That's where your Hex Core would have gotten a kill for you there too. Because the follow-up damage on your laser probably would have done it. Plus, you would have had more mana in your bank to use to get your ult off.
And more AP.
Yeah, plus the extra AP, too. So you might not have even needed to use your ult. Okay, I'm gonna speed up a little bit here. Okay, so Lee's doing the first dragon, so you want to be keeping an eye on that. You don't need to go help him at this point, since nobody is contesting it, and he's got bot lane helping. But you just want to keep an eye on it, just in case something starts to go down. So that's fine, so he picks that up, that's good.
Yeah, I kind of failed that laser.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's a mechanical thing.
Sometimes my mouse, I accidentally move my mouse, so it shoots in a weird direction.
Yeah, I feel you. So yeah, I mean, that's obviously something you want to fix, but that's you don't want to whiff skills like that, obviously, but good flash. Yeah, that's a good flash. What? Oh, that was a miscommunication. I think Shen wanted Darius to dive. So on that, I think Shen flashed too to taunt you. So you can be timing both of those things, Shen's flash and Shen's ult. So you just want to want to.
Chat.
Okay, good. So that I can't see your chat, so.
This is where I died because I wasn't expecting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and because you got, I don't think there's anything you could have done differently after that went down, because she catches you, and so obviously you can't do anything about it. So I mean, the only thing to do differently here is to not get caught by the binding. You just want to be really careful about how you're positioned and be trying to move back and forth and be less predictable. But once she lands it, then there's nothing you can do to stop her from completing her combo, really. So you did what you could, but she won that from the second she landed her binding. Oh, that sucked. If you want a really early boost of damage, like one thing that if you want to go super aggressive and you're trying to get really early kills on Viktor, you can go double Doran's Ring and just rush your Sorcerer Shoes. Double Doran's and Sorcerer Shoes is a pretty potent, really early boost of damage. At this point, it's probably not worth going double Doran's, honestly. But like on your first back, if you don't, if you don't want to go Hex Core, or if you want something that's a little bit more early aggression than Hex Core, then that's another way you can go. Usually you would go Hex Core, but if you have a specific plan for getting a kill, then you can go double Dorans and Sorcerer's Shoes. You'll see.
How does he do with roaming?
Victor? As far as getting roamed on?
Like when he roams to other lands, how, like, is he good at it, or?
Well, he doesn't have a, he doesn't have a fantastic gap closer or something, so it's not like, so he's not as good at it as Katarina or Fizz or somebody would be. But with your gravity trap or your gravity well, you sure can be, and you have enough burst damage that you can sure. So I mean, you just have to be smart about it. So you have to time it pretty well, and and be aware of the situation in the lanes. So what you want to do is you want to take a look at, you want to glance down at this lane, for example, and so you're looking at this and you see that that right now there's 5 minions here and a reinforcement wave coming. So unless Nautilus just shoves this wave is going to just be sitting here for a little while, if they, especially if they decide to freeze it. And so Nautilus is going to try to shove it, but Lee might be coming in, and so I don't think he'll be able to continue shoving it completely. So your lane is going to be down here in about 30 seconds, and there's a good chance that the wave will still be somewhere right in this area. And so so that's just something you can glance down and be aware of, because if the lane sticks around here, and if your lane doesn't shove it, then you will have a roam in about 45 seconds when Vayne gets back, because they'll be sitting right about here. And so then in about 30 seconds you want to start making your way down, if that's still the case. So you can glance and just kind of predict a little bit into the future, just based on where the wave is, and that's that's when you can plan a roam to try to catch people out. Because if you wait to start roaming until their lane is shoved up, and then you leave mid, then often it's too late, because the wave will have started pushing this way, or they'll start to get their spidey senses on that they're going to get jumped on because they're pushed up too far, and so they'll just fall back on their own. So you want to try to predict the position of the lane, maybe 20 or 30 seconds in advance as much as possible, just by looking at where the minion waves are and kind of trying to predict which way it's going to push in about 30 seconds or so. And if it's going to be pushing toward your allied turret, then you can then you can make a plan to start roaming down if the situation doesn't change. So unlike Katarina, you can't just kind of show up anywhere and jump in and murder people. You kind of have to be a little bit more strategic about it, because you don't have a fantastic gap closer. But if you can come down, and you come down through Tribush and throw down your gravity trap, that's enough to at least blow a couple of flashes, and that's not nothing. And if they don't have flashes, then often you can pick up a kill with your burst, if your team is engaging with you. So you're probably your best use, or the thing you're strongest at, is wave clear and team fighting. So roaming isn't going to be your, necessarily your key to success. If you can shove and keep Morgana in mid, that is almost as good.
I'm not very good at farming under tower with mages, unless it's the caster minions.
Yeah, it's hard because your auto attacks aren't very strong, and that's true for a lot of mages. It is just harder to do. So again, and one thing you can do with, well, it just takes practice. That's just practice. That's hard to simulate even in a custom game, getting shoved under turret. And so, as you get more familiar with, what Viktor is able to do, and what how much damage his auto attacks do, and it becomes just more muscle memory, you'll get better at that. Because part of it is doing damage to the minions before, a certain amount of damage to the minions before the turret targets them. So you're kind of setting up minions ahead of time to be last hittable when the moment comes. And so if you know how much damage your auto attacks do, and then you can know how much damage the turret does, then you can use your laser, you can auto attack them before the turret targets them to get them low enough so that when the turret hits them, then they're last hittable or whatever. Okay, so like this situation right here, this is something you could be walking down into potentially. So if you keep your eye on this right here, Morgana is leaving, your bot lane is getting dived on, Leona isn't there, she must have recalled. And so by the time you get down here, you might not be able to get down in time to to save both of these guys. But since it's a turret dive, and given the nature of the situation, they're probably their blue is probably going to be pretty low, because Nautilus is going to take a bunch of damage. Yeah, so if you roam down into this, or at least start walking down, you know, so you're able to be there. Because if it turns out that it's a terrible idea to go in, then you can always fall back. But if you look at that situation, you can start walking down. Because right now, if you were here, then Vayne, you could probably kill Vayne under turret with your full combo.
Another champ I want to learn is Azir for mid lane. He just looks fun and he does lots of damage.
Yeah.
Really high carry potential.
Yeah. The thing with Azir is that
he's really hard to play.
He's very complicated. Yeah. So if you're willing to put the time in, then sure. Viktor is probably the better one to stick with while you're kind of learning mid. If you're not, if you don't play a lot of mid, just because Viktor isn't as complicated, and so you won't be spending as much time wrestling with a new role and a really difficult champion. But that's kind of just... Go ahead.
My two mids are Viktor and Lux right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are solid, those are both solid champs. And so Azir could be really fun. But he also might kind of set you back a little ways while you're figuring him out too.
How much CS I'm up on Morgana right now?
Yeah, this is just devastating. So yeah, that's the thing where it's like, it doesn't even matter. You don't even need to kill her. You've already absolutely obliterated her. She has one kill that she picked up somewhere, and so that's that's helping her a little bit, but you're still way ahead. Okay, I'm gonna speed up here. So being this ahead, you can start to force stuff. I mean, you can shove mid and then roam like you're doing right now. You can do this as often as you want, pretty much. You can shove mid and then you can roam bot and just force the issue. You don't necessarily need to wait for optimal opportunities anymore when you're doing this well.
What summoner spells? I missed my ult so bad here.
Oh dang!
So sad.
That sucks. Flash ignite usually.
I see some like pros and high elo players like Master and Challenger take Ghost or like Cleanse.
That's kind of situational. Ghost can work pretty well on Viktor because just of the way his kit works, he doesn't have any natural gap closers, and so he needs to stay in range of people, kind of like Twisted Fate or Vladimir in a way, in that same sense that.
Like he doesn't really have a cast time either, so he can just keep running.
Yeah, exactly, and so that can synergize pretty well. So you could go like Ghost Ignite potentially if you are able to ward in position well enough that you don't need flash to get away from ganks and stuff. So yeah, Ghost is definitely an option. Cleanse is very situational. It's something that you could potentially run against like a Morgana type champion, because so you can cleanse her bind or you can cleanse her ult or whatever. So that's an option. I'm not, it's just kind of what you feel like you need to win the lane.
Is Exhaust or Barrier or Heal any possibility on him?
Barrier you could take versus a Barrier or Exhaust you could take versus an Assassin like LeBlanc or Zed or something. Exhaust is pretty strong versus Zed. Barrier maybe a little bit better versus like LeBlanc or Talon possibly, since it's a little harder to get Exhaust on them before they do all their damage. And so yeah, versus Assassin's Barrier is a good option. I like Barrier a little bit better than heal on mid laners.
Yeah, because they usually run Ignite.
Yeah, and so yeah, Ignite, and then Barrier does give you a little bit more of a shield or effective HP than heal does. It obviously doesn't stick around like heal does, but wow, nice.
I was signaling him to back off because I didn't know he had ulti up.
Oh, yeah. So just in general, you are getting caught by a lot of dark bindings, and so that's something where you can't dodge all of them, but you can kind of be just trying to move a little bit less predictably. So, you know, when you're walking straight towards Morgana and you don't have a minion in front of you, you can kind of, you know, that's what she is looking for to land her Dark Binding. And so if you can kind of get in her head a little bit and think about the times that, you know, just kind of like with playing Lux when you were looking for a Light Binding. That same...
So bad Lux Light Binding.
but, you know, you can kind of look for the kind of situations that you're looking for to land those, you know? And you kind of get into Morgana's head a little bit, and if you see yourself putting yourself in a situation where if you were her, you would bind you, you know, then try to do something, you know, juke a one way or move toward her in a way that's a little bit less maybe direct. Nice.
Yeah, I get Rom Knight. I can.
Yeah. So being that deep. And you had your ward up, so that's something just as you're pushing, you can just throw a ward in the brush as you push up. That's a good habit to get into, especially as you're getting into the later mid game here, and roaming is going to become more common. Pushing past river without vision on both sides is going to get more and more dangerous.
Yeah.
So you just want to get into the habit of doing that as little as possible.
Did Darius TP, or was he just randomly bot lane? Yeah, he doesn't even have TP, so was he like...
Maybe they...
Were they at bot lane?
Yeah, I have no idea why he was down there. Like...
Oh, I think they killed Leona.
Oh yeah, they must have killed Leona. Okay. And then he just walks back up. So, yeah, I mean, you could have known that he was in the area, but having him walk all the way back up to top is a little hard to predict. But that's just where, yeah, you just want to have vision. So you can be aware of those kinds of situations. So you picked up Morgana, and so it's 1-for-1, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But,
right now I'm 7. This season I've only played Viktor twice, but I'm 7-0 with Viktor, and every time I've played him.
Nice. He's a good champion. Since they reworked him, he's a lot more fluid and good in a lot more situations. I played Viktor before the rework too, and I've always enjoyed his playstyle, but since they reworked him, he's a lot better overall.
Stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked up Luden's Echo first item.
Yeah,
I don't know. I love that item.
It is a good item. It's a good item, and I think it's probably. I don't think it's as good on Viktor as it is on a lot of other champions. So I don't know that I would say it's. Yeah, that was a good flash. I don't know that I would say it's like core on him necessarily. I would probably.
I do it for poke and wave clear.
But yeah, it's not a bad item on him at all. It's. I wouldn't get it before. The hex core though. If you are doing very well and you don't need Merlinomicon, then you could go Luden's Echo after your Hex Core. If you need the extra mana regen and stuff, if you're not just destroying your opponent, then Merlinomicon is usually going to be better to go first and then go. And then go Luden's Echo after that. But yeah, it's not a bad item on him.
What I'm scared for is that next patch, they're gonna, rework all the AP items.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. And from what I read, it seems like it's actually going to be. I think it'll be.
Stronger.
Well, no. Well, kind of. They're flattening out. They're just kind of flattening it out so that, in theory, at least, the theory behind it is that it'll give you more flexibility with your build. So it's not just that you have, you only, because right now, just with the way that the AP items work, you pretty much have to go, the needlessly large rod items, because they're just better in on every champion in every situation. And so some of the more niche options like Rylai's or Leandries and stuff, yeah, stuff like that kind of gets. It's not because they're bad items. It's just that they're not as efficient as the needlessly large rod items, and so even in cases where you would want to be able to use items like those, it's almost always the worst choice. So that's what they're trying to fix, is kind of flatten out the curve a little bit so that some of those other builds and options are more viable.
Do you think the new Luna's Echo will be a better rush on more champions? With a 10% move speed and 100 AP?
I would need to look at it all again, and some of that is going to depend so much on just the AP landscape, because maybe Luden's Echo in and of itself is a better item, but if there are if there's another item that ends up being better still, then maybe not. Maybe Zanya's is the new rush, the perma rush, or just to throw a name out there. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the
From what I heard, Rumble is really OP with these new items.
Yeah, Rumble will be, and Teemo will be a nightmare too with the new Nashers and Leandries. So so it's on PvE, and there's a lot of stuff will change before it actually goes live, and so it'll be really interesting to see how that all shakes down. I'll be keeping a close eye on what the pros start to do and stuff, but I don't think I don't think it will necessarily mean that you need to really change up your build. I think the things that you were building will still work. Maybe there's things that will be more optimal now, and so you can just be paying attention to what people are doing, and I'll be paying attention to it too, and so you're always free to ask me what I think as that stuff starts to shake down and stuff. But I don't think you'll be up a creek or something if you just keep if at first you just keep building the same items. But yeah, that'll be a really interesting set of changes. So I backed it up so we could look at this a little bit. So anytime you have this situation, there's nothing you can really do here, right? They've got 5 people. Yeah. They're burning down this turret. This is just a matter of time. Even if they wait until the turret goes down, there's nothing you can do here to stop this. And since they have Shen, who has taunt, and Nautilus has this pull, and Darius has his pull, and and even Morgana's dark binding, but these guys all have ability to lock you down very quickly. And so this is a situation where you just give them this. They've earned it. They rotated better. You have to kind of give it up.
I was thinking that I only saw 4 people.
Yeah. Well, I
was thinking that Graves and Leona was closer.
Yeah.
But they were at Inhib Tower.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's just being a little bit more aware of the situation. So kind of if you have your radar in your mind, you're kind of pinging and updating the danger that you're in at every given moment. You just kind of want to ping that radar a little bit more often, so that you're checking the minimap as you're walking up and being a little bit more aware of where Graves and Leona are, how what the potential dangers are here, because Nautilus is about to grab you. And so wave clearing is fine, but you could have wave cleared those 3 melees from back here.
Yeah.
And being a little bit safer, and that would still have had the effect of delaying their push a little bit, and so you can still be doing something without putting yourself in mortal danger. So your team was close enough that it's definitely not the end of the world. And so Lee ended up following it up. So that's it's just being positioning a little bit better would means that you either don't give up that kill that early, or if you do end up dying, it's while your team is able to make even more advantage of it. But your team was responding, and so they make the most of it. Poor Graves. Good. Okay. So at this point, you guys are up overall. You have 3 turrets on the enemy team. So you can't see how much gold, or 3 dragons on the enemy team, or turrets are even. And you can't see exactly how much gold you're up as a team, but you can kind of estimate it just by looking at the kills and the CS scores, and so you in particular are way ahead. And Graves is ahead, and Vladimir is ahead. So all of you are at least a little bit ahead.
Like the main
yeah, and Lee is way ahead as well. So so Darius is the only one that's probably in the ballpark. And Vayne is well, yeah, she's actually pretty far behind too. Well, not as much as I would expect. How is she not? Oh, never mind. Graves doesn't have any kills. I thought I saw Graves had kills. He just has assists. So yeah, Vayne's a little bit ahead because they have the same number of assists, but she has a little more CS and such. So Vayne and Darius are kind of your threats right now. But you have enough burst, and Vladimir is just strong enough in general, and Leah's ahead, that this is the time when, yeah, you want to start really aggressively rotating and pushing turrets and looking to set up fights. So
I
not
get
just
caught here again.
Okay.
Yeah, by Dark Binding.
Okay.
And then Nautilus does his whole.
Yeah. So this is kind of what happens when you are tunneling a little bit more on getting the kill than you are on setting up a good play, you know. And so let's just back up a little bit and look at this. So you threw an award, that's solid. That's good thinking ahead. But then, yeah, you always got to be thinking about, you know, the different positions. And these guys do not want to attack Leona, because Leona is tanky and she wants to be up close and stunning and stuff anyway. So they're not going to go for her unless they have to, unless you know, she's alone. So I mean, Vayne will harass her, but as far as like committing all of their CS and stuff, or their CC, so you know that they're going to look to go for you because you're the target that they actually want to kill, right? And so even if Morgana doesn't show up, you've got Nautilus who's going to jump on you. And so this is just risky. And so you can be positioning yourself, even if you're just, you know, as you're walking in, you're going like
behind Leona.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just push it. Yeah, just putting yourself right behind Leona, putting yourself kind of over closer to these minions, so that if Nautilus goes for you, you can just juke real slightly to the side and make him hit a minion instead of you. It's just minor adjustments to your path, so that you're not just clicking on your target and walking straight towards your target, because that makes you super predictable. I mean, if you're moving just a little bit circumspect, it doesn't really slow things down. You know, you're not really going to lose out on hitting Vayne, especially if Leona does her job, which she is, because Leona's going to lock her down, so Vayne's not going anywhere. So you can afford to take a little bit more time to walk up to her and dodge, you know, these shenanigans here. Because, yeah, then you know, obviously when you die, then Leona doesn't have any immediate backup, and so Vayne can murder her, and Graves has to leave because it's 1v3. So.
Is Vayne mid viable?
Vayne mid? Not normally. I mean, if you know, well, Vayne is one of the, is Quinn and Vayne are kind of the two solo laners that, or the two ADCs that can solo lane. Quinn in general is better at it. She has fewer poor matchups, but Vayne can work.
I used to play a lot of Quinn.
Yeah,
I would always feed as ADC, but whenever I went mid or top, I would just
Quinn sucks. Quinn sucks as an ADC. It's really rough. And so yeah, so I'm a Quinn main. So that's what I run, as Quinn solo lane mostly. But yeah, so I mean, if you know, I guess all that to say, if you know Vayne really well, and you know what her strengths and weaknesses are, and so you know what you're getting into in mid lane, then sure, you know, you could run her mid. You would just need to be very aware that you're pretty vulnerable to getting ganked, and mid lane is pretty gank heavy often, since you don't really have a lot of escapes.
Yeah.
Any escapes really.
Just tumble and pin them.
Yeah. So you have a knockback in your tumble, but it's not a super reliable. That's not super reliable for getting away. But yeah, you could probably make it work.
My internet is kind of getting wobbly again.
Okay.
I wish I could just play Vayne everywhere.
Well, that's what I do. I just play Quinn everywhere.
I usually go Borg, and then if I'm ahead, I go Borg, Avarice Blade, and then I build a full Phantom Dancer, and then I build the Avarice Blade into Yomu's. Is that an okay path? Or should I just finish the Avarice Blade into Yomu's first before Phantom Dancer? Or not get the Avarice Blade at all?
It kind of depends. That's situational. If you want to get the Avarice Blade, is when you want to keep laning for a while, right? Because that's the benefit of Avarice Blade, is to get the GP10 and the extra gold on last hitting. And so if you want to keep laning, then go Avarice Blade. But if you're wanting to start roaming and start fighting, or not to start fighting, you can fight your bot lane duo. But if you want to start, pressuring the map and end lane phase, then probably go the Brutalizer, because that can give you a really nice little early damage spike as well. Brutalizer plus Blade of the Rune King, that's pretty potent. And then you can build that into the Ghost Blade, or you could just rush the Phantom Dancer and then go right into Infinity Edge.
I usually never buy Infinity Edge on Vayne. It's just like, because I go PT instead, because I just like the lifesteal better to survive more.
That makes sense. I guess I would...
Especially if they have a lot of thorn mails.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I would encourage you to experiment with going Infinity Edge over Bloodthirster. So you have a Blade of the Rune King, which gives you a lot of sustain already, and if people are buying Thorn Mails, then go get some early magic resist. Build the magic resist side of Guardian Angel, or get a QSS or whatever makes the most sense for the game, and that'll help because the Thorn Mail returns magic damage. Getting some magic resist will reduce the effectiveness of a Thorn Mail too. But Infinity Edge will make your, especially when combined with a Phantom Dancer, your auto attacks will hit so incredibly hard once you get to late game.
I love whenever I have Fort, PD, and Yomus.
Yeah.
Because whenever you have that in like the mid game, and you hit the other ADC 3 times, they're like about lower than half health.
Yeah, exactly. And so at that point, once you get those 3 items, that's your mid game kind of power spike, and then you want to immediately build a Last Whisper, because at that point, then the armor is starting to come into play. And once you get your Last Whisper, that's where Infinity Edge will, I think you'll get a lot more mileage out of Infinity Edge at that point than you will out of Bloodthirster at that point. So maybe just try it for a while. Get some, play some games with it, see how it feels by prioritizing that over Bloodthirster. Because, yeah, I think you'll kill people so much faster with Infinity Edge than you will with Bloodthirster that the extra lifesteal won't. Especially tanks, because after you get the armor pin, after that it's the crits.
And you have a lot of crit chance with the Yomu's PD and Infinity Edge.
Yeah, and you'll get, and plus the passive on Infinity Edge will just make that work so hard for you.
A question with like AD carries in general is, when should I build Last Whisper? Like if I need sustain, like say Jinx. I usually go IE, Static Shiv, and then I can't decide between Last Whisper or BT. Because I need sustain, but I need armor fan as well.
Just build the Vamp Scepter.
Vamp Scepter into Last Whisper?
Yeah, just get the Vamp Scepter so you have a little bit of sustain, and then go Last Whisper. That's what I would normally do. If you have double Dorans, then that often, so you can go like a double Dorans. If you have bought double Dorans early anyway, that gives you 6% lifesteal by itself, and that sometimes is enough to get you through the mid game. But if you don't have that, then between a single Dorans and a Vamp Scepter, that's 11% or 10%. I can't remember. And that's probably more than enough to get you through, that mid game kind of time zone. And then after Last Whisper, you can finish into the Bloodthirster. Okay. So yeah, so this game, there's not quite as much to talk about, because your lane phase, Morgana kind of handed it to you, and you did play it pretty well, but there wasn't as much to talk about there. And since kind of all your lanes did pretty well, that kind of results in a mid game that kind of just goes your way no matter what you do, and so it's kind of harder to see mistakes and things that could be done better. So I'm pointing out a few things as I see them.
I overextend a lot.
Yeah,
like,
so
for kills.
Yeah, that's kind of the main thing that I am seeing, is that you're kind of tunneling on kills to the point where you're making yourself really easy to hit with skill shots and lock down with CC. And so
it's because that laser, you know how you have to like put where it starts?
Yeah.
I always like, because when I put it down, he just starts walking in a straight line there, because I don't know the exact range of it.
Oh, yeah. So that's just a champion familiarity thing. So as you get better at Viktor, you know, you'll get better at doing that. One thing you can do is do you use SmartCast?
Yeah.
And do you have the range indicators, or do you...
no range indicators.
Okay, so one thing you can do, I don't think it's by default, but you can set it up. So what I do is I have... I don't like using the range indicators, but I have like all my ability keys set up so that when I hit Shift, it changes it from SmartCast to Manual Cast. So I'll hold Shift Q or Shift E or whatever, and that's a manual. And so that'll bring up, you know, the rate. So then I hit Shift E, and that brings up the, you know, the circle around Viktor, and then I can click and drag and release. And so if I want a little bit more accuracy and don't need to just speed cast it, then I can, and I do that with Quinn too. Then, you know, especially as you're learning the ranges and stuff, that can be helpful to have the option to use a manual cast from time to time for a little bit of extra accuracy. But yeah, if you can focus on just kind of making yourself a little bit less predictable when you're going for a target, and kind of putting yourself, in the mind of your opponents, and trying to think through what they're thinking, or imagine what they're thinking, or what, you know, what their next move is going to be, and trying to counter it before it happens, you'll avoid a lot of these situations that have gotten you killed.
Yeah. We kind of go like super brutal on them at the end. They lose this team fight, and then we get 5th Dragon, and then we take their mid inhib and get Baron right afterwards.
Nice.
The reason I like Zanya so much is even if I do get hit by Morgana Q and whatever, and if she starts to ult me, I can just Zanya's.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, don't hesitate to Zanya's. There's some situations where you want to hold on to it until you can dodge a really key ability. You know, like if you have a Zed, then it's usually worth holding on to until he ults you, or, you know, if you see Darius trying to ult you, then maybe. But in general, yeah, if you get caught by something, then the team, you know, the enemy team's automatic follow-up to that is going to be to jump on you because you're caught by the binding. And so just immediately Zanya'ing is not a bad, that's not a bad reflex at all. Yeah, so you guys are just going, this is just going to be a landslide after that point, I think.
Yeah. My Viktor game I played the night before, we had a Sivir comp, and Sivir and Viktor worked so well together.
Yeah.
I wish I could play Sivir. Every time I try, I wait in this bush for Vayne, but she doesn't come.
Yeah, that's good. I'm just kind of blitzing through some of this because it's pretty straightforward at this point. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, solid game overall. I mean, you played that lane pretty well. And, you know, Morgana didn't make it very difficult for you to play it very well, but you still played it well. So early on, yeah, you played the lane phase pretty well early on. You CS'd really well and got a big lead on her. And then as it moved on, yeah, you tunneled a little bit on trying to kill her and overpower her. And so, you know, you don't feel like you have to do that to win the lane. You know, focus on what your win conditions are. And at that point, it was just continuing to choke the life out of her, but with your CS lead. Let's see. So on Viktor, yeah, this is just a general Viktor thing. You know, prioritize that hex core. It's very strong on him, or it's strong only on him because he can build it. So but it's a very strong item. So getting those 2 upgrades first is almost always a good way to go. And then moving into, you know, Morellonomicon or Ludens or Zanya's, depending on how the game's going.
How was Lich Bane on him?
Not really worth it. If you're gonna, Lich Bane fits better if you're going like one of those goofy top lane Viktor, you know, kind of bruiser builds. If you're going really CDR and kite heavy, then you're kind of focusing more on your Q, and Lich Bane kind of fits in there. In mid lane, it just doesn't really mesh as well with the burst build that you kind of want to go for. And so, you know, I mean, where are you going to fit it in? I mean, at this point, you could go Lich Bane, but you get so much more mileage out of it Rabadons for what, you know, for what your role in the team is at that point. So
yeah. My boots.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could do that. That's probably not a great move on Viktor, though. He's already has enough trouble keeping up with the action. So, and then so kind of same thing after in that lane phase issue of kind of tunneling on the kills. As you're in fights and you're chasing and you're looking to do stuff, you have a lot of the right ideas, and so you're not like way off. It's just little stuff about thinking the next couple of steps of a skirmish through. What's Morgana likely, or what's Nautilus likely to do as I'm walking up here? Who's he likely going to try to target? Probably me, and if so, then how can I dodge that before he even starts to cast it? Can I predict what he's going to do and prevent it before it happens? And so that kind of mindset will help you dodge and avoid a lot of the things that kind of got you these 5 kills in the mid game, or 5 deaths in the mid game.